Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be doing a box office update during the mid-weekend as Jurassic World Dominion has finally gotten the initial Friday numbers, the Thursday-Friday numbers being released, the estimates, and we will of course have the full box office breakdown here on this channel and over on the Geeks and Gamers channel tomorrow once we get those final weekend estimates out. But right now, Jurassic World Dominion doing incredibly well, going towards a $386 million opening weekend, getting very close to $400 million just already after opening after just a few days. It does have some international numbers from about a week ago where it did get an early start, but these are of course very impressive numbers. So we'll talk about this. We'll talk about how Spider-Man No Way Home apparently is getting an extra release coming up in September where it'll have extended scenes and it's the more fun version. Apparently that's what it's being known as. We'll also give you updates on where Top Gun Maverick and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness happens to be as well. Before any further though, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. And also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time we do a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So, of course, the first news is from Deadline, where it talks about how it's roaring towards a $386 million opening weekend through Sunday. As it goes on here, Universal's Jurassic World Dominion is storming to a projected $386. In its second offshore frame, it added 57 new markets after releasing early in 15 last session. So last week it was open in 15 markets, so again had a limited release, now in 57 new markets, which is why we're seeing much bigger numbers here. The international box office through Friday was at $135 million, including new hubs and holdovers. Through Sunday, it's estimated to land a full overseas weekend of $175 million, lifting the offshore total to $244. So a film that's doing very well, and even though there is definitely some help coming from the fact that it was released in 15 markets last weekend, it is still doing quite well in the other markets. Remember that last weekend, it was already doing better than the previous iterations of Jurassic World in those similar markets. In like-for-like markets, it was tracking about 44% ahead of the original Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, so it was already doing quite well there, and it seems to be doing quite well in the domestic market as well, at least when compared to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which was the second film or the last film in the franchise. In the same suite of new international markets this session at today's rates, 2015's Jurassic World opened at 226, 187 when you take away previews, while 2028's Fallen Kingdom, oh boy, there's a typo, and it's well past noon today, so I'm amazed that it's actually stayed up that long. Anyway, it goes on to say that Fallen Kingdom had a $227 million opening, 212 when you take away previews. Even though Jurassic World Dominion is coming in lower than those movies, it is ahead of pre-weekend projections, notably with strong play in the CCP, Communist China, where it's on track to hit $50 million plus through tomorrow, which will make it instantly the highest grossing Hollywood film of 2022. They're overtaking Universal's The Bad Guys. Just to remind ourselves here that this film is indeed going in China, is going in rather mainland China, the communist-run Communist Party, CCP China, which means that of that $50 million, about, 75% of that's going to be going to the Communist Party. So, hey, good job for continuing to fund the communist over there. What I did find a bit interesting, though, a little bit more interesting, is the coverage here by Anthony D'Alessandro over at Deadline, because he focuses more so on the domestic side of things, right? They kind of split the work up a little bit. One takes the international, one takes the domestic. But as you can see here, right now, it is projected to make $142 million domestically. But this is quite impressive because it's only about 4% off from the last movie, Fallen Kingdom. And if we remember, Fallen Kingdom was not a very good film. A lot of people had issues with it, so much so that Colin Trevorrow, who was the mastermind behind all of these films, even though he took a break from directing that last film, even he had to come out and apologize for the film not being as good, not being up to stuff, basically, compared to the previous Jurassic World movie. But as it says right here, it's actually going toe-to-toe with it, and if you actually look at the numbers themselves, you could actually see this film even do better than Fallen Kingdom, which I think would be quite impressive, seeing that this film really isn't getting the best word of mouth. It's definitely better than last film, but I wouldn't say that it's getting rave reviews from just general audience members. Critics don't matter at all, as we have come to learn, which is another reason why I want to talk about this article, because they make some very interesting conclusions that I think are a little bit, let's just say, outdated. who goes on to say that the first day had $18 million in preview for this film. Other records to scream about: Dominion is about to be the best opening in the COVID era for a non-superhero title. Okay. Intelligence reports that Dominion clocked 4.4 million admissions in its opening day, with the Colin Trevorrow-directed and co-written movie commanding 70% of the weekend's stateside moviegoing audience. That's impressive. I'm glad that they've started to add these numbers in, because it is interesting to see the actual numbers of people versus the dollar amounts, because dollar amounts don't always take into account how many of those tickets were premium formats and exactly how many people does that actually result in instead. So I wish that they had fuller breakdowns of how many people they think entirely went to any given film, because I think those would be actually better numbers and metrics to compare by. Because let's say you had 100 million people going to see one movie, but then you had 50 million people going to see a different film, but the 50 million people seeing the different film had a much higher ticket price. It does then change the numbers quite a bit, and so a film could look more successful even with less people going, and that's why I do appreciate those numbers. It goes on to talk about the international numbers, though, through Saturday being $135 million and expected to get to $175 million, bringing the entire total to $386, which is, as they even themselves admit, 19% ahead of the forecast that Deadline had for the film. Now, Box Office Pro did have an update to their numbers and said that essentially this film is expected to land somewhere around the range that they had for this movie, at least when it comes to domestic markets, because that's all they really handle. They don't really deal with international all that much. What's also interesting, though, is that Deadline continues to use people like CinemaScore, and as you all know, I am no fan of CinemaScore. I think that they are a trash organization because they never release any of their metrics. All they ever say is, it got an A-. Oh, out of how many people were surveyed? Where were those people surveyed? Like, do we get at least a state or a city? Those markets do actually determine and do actually have an important impact on how we are supposed to view that A-, because let's say you have a film that comes out, and let's say that film pushes certain ideologies, but let's say that you're taking people's opinions from a LA theater where most people are going to have the same type of opinion as the movie. Okay, that is going to impact the cinema score, versus let's say you have a much broader range of places. We wouldn't know that because you don't actually ever reveal that information, which is why I much prefer the fact that, and I'm glad that they bring those up, the ComScore screen engine, because one, they tend to be a bit more realistic and a bit more fair, and also we tend to get more data from it as well. As you can see here, the exit polling from ComScore was around 3.5 stars for this movie, which actually makes a lot of sense to me. 73% and 57% were definite recommends for this movie, which is actually lower than Fallen Kingdom's 82% and the 4 stars. So it kind of makes me interested to see exactly where ComScore was at that time, how many people, where they were getting their metrics to. Again, I would like to know the same information as I would like to know from CinemaScore, but I have a feeling, as I've tried to look up ComScore information before, they tend to have a little bit more data. It goes on to say the under 12 crowd adores this movie, with 92% giving it a positive rating and 69% recommending it. And so I think that this 57% recommend number is probably the most important from ComScore, because rating films can always be a little bit hit or miss, right? Some people are more influenced by the entire film, some more influenced by just the ending of a film. So let's say a film ends on a very large high. Hey, someone might say, oh, I would absolutely recommend the movie, whereas other people who take films in their entirety might say, well, it kind of was really long and it took a long way to get there, and the ending really wasn't all that great in comparison to everything else, so maybe I won't recommend it. So 57% recommend to me kind of indicates that though this film seems to be at a better state right now, again, 73% would be the rating versus the 82% rating of Fallen Kingdom, this definite recommend is, I think, a little bit more interesting. If we go ahead and try and find the Fallen World, again, back from 2018, and we try and find that number that they gave, it might give us a better indication about what the actual, definite recommend would be for this film. So as it says here, we have, heading into the weekend, some rivals. Post-track shows Fallen Kingdom pulling in more general audiences than Incredibles 2. Let's see if we can actually get the percentages themselves. This is what happens sometimes when you just go ahead and do it live. I really wish that they were a little bit more straightforward to actually see right here. Let's go ahead and do the old Command F, and let's see if we can find ComScore. There it is. Overall weekend ticket sales per ComScore, 3%. Okay, that's not exactly what I was looking for. Let's see if we find it again. There we go. That's what I wanted. 82% overall positive. A- cinema score. Again, cinema score doesn't matter. So it looks like they either weren't keeping track of definite recommend back in 2018, or they just decided not to actually report it. Nonetheless, I think that this is the most important number, because this tells me that, yes, there is some word of mouth that one could look to that could keep this film making money through next weekend. But yeah, not nearly as strong as we would have seen for a film like Top Gun Maverick, for instance. That all being said, I also found it quite interesting that they talk about the walk-up industry too. As it says here, 58% of the tickets bought by Dominion were actually bought on the same day. And this is something that I have said constantly throughout all of these different films, and all of the predictions that people make on films as well, the early tracking, is that this is always dependent upon pre-sales, and pre-sales only tell you a part of the story. The fact that over half of tickets are still to this day bought the day of means that pre-sales really don't mean a whole lot, because you have up to 58% of an audience that either is going to show up or not going to show up. So if 4 million people show up to a movie and 2 million of them, or more than 2 million of them, showed up on the day, what happens if the film doesn't look all that great and those people just don't show up? The number goes down. That's, again, why pre-sales can only take you so far, and why these predictions can be incredibly wrong, like in the cases of, let's say Star Wars Solo a Star Wars story, or it could be, spot on, like in the case of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, or in the case of, more specifically, Jurassic World Dominion. Some of these names are just getting so crazy that I'm just, again, too many names that are in my head right now, but it's still looking quite well for the film nonetheless. If you actually look to some other news that's going on, I know that this has gotten some attention. Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be coming back to theaters in September. Don't exactly know why. I guess it's trying to promote their movie on physical media, but you can already get it on physical media. I don't know why they're waiting until this specific time. My only guess would be that Sony doesn't want to take money away from any of their other releases, but I don't think I'm aware of any other Sony-specific releases that are getting a lot of money in right now. And actually, I think it'd be kind of funny to see Spider-Man No Way Home get re-released right now, or in a couple of weeks, up against another Marvel film or something like that. I guess that's probably the reason why they're holding off, because I think Lightyear is set to come out, next week or in a couple of weeks, and so they don't want it to take away from anything. But this is a Sony-distributed film, and so I guess Sony wouldn't care one way or the other, since Disney is more so competition, though they get 25% of the receipts from Spider-Man. Nonetheless, hey, if you are someone who liked you liked Spider-Man No Way Home, which I thought was quite a lot of fun, and you want to see more extended scenes and more footage, a longer film, it's already quite a long film, but even more, hey, it's coming back to theaters in September, and it's going to be called the More Fun Stuff version. I think that's a little silly, but hey, I did like the movie overall. Looking at the numbers themselves, you can see for the numbers for Friday, this includes the Thursday premiere numbers for Jurassic World Dominion. The film made around $59.5 million, while Top Gun Maverick only saw from last week a 44% drop, so still holding quite strong. This puts the film up to $357 million in the domestic marketplace, and this is projected to actually get to the point where it will be within striking distance of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So yeah, it could either surpass Doctor Strange this weekend or get very close to it. Either way, Maverick is going to easily beat out Doctor Strange, and when you look at the number of days, it's been out half the time. That is quite impressive for Maverick in the long run. If we look to Jurassic World Dominion, it's up to 194. I think that this number will get updated as the days go on. Right now, it's at $194.5 million. Likely to see this film be well over, very close to the $400 million mark. I think their end prediction is around 385, so it'll be by $400 million by the end of this week easily. If you compare this film to the other Jurassic World films, you'll notice here that the first movie made 89.1 when you adjust for inflation. So again, not going to get anywhere close to that number. But look at these numbers right here: 59.5 versus the 58.9. That is quite impressive for that first day. And again, that does include previews for both of those times. So yeah, it's already tracking ahead of where the last film fell. And so if these numbers continue, if it has strong holds, if it does better than or matches that of Fallen Kingdom first Saturday and first Sunday, then you could actually see this film end up, over the 148 that was made by Kingdom. So either it'll be better than Kingdom did as far as its opening weekend domestically and get to the $150 million range, or it'll fall a little bit behind with the Saturday and Sunday numbers, which could totally happen, especially with different events going on. I know there's like playoff events for other, some sports right now going on, so that could take certain things away. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see exactly what actually happens with those numbers, though. Top Gun Maverick, though, as you all know, very excited with this film. $635.4 million is where this film currently stands, and as you can see, doing a lot better domestically than it is internationally. But right now, based on the numbers that they are projecting, this film will probably surpass $700 million this weekend, so still holding very strong, very, very impressive, and very happy to see this film doing as well as it is. And whether or not it makes it to $1 billion or not really is going to depend on what the numbers look like in whole, especially internationally, by the end of this weekend, and where this tracks along with other films, especially comparing it to, I think, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness after the actual numbers come in, will be a good metric to see exactly where this film will fall, because though Maverick, as you can see, will definitely be a better domestic run than will be a better domestic run than Doctor Strange 2. That 278 versus that 520. I don't think that you're going to see Top Gun be able to get anywhere close to the 520. The question for Top Gun Maverick, as far as its billion-dollar prospects are concerned, is it going to be able to make enough more domestically to offset what it does not make internationally, and will it also be able to have a strong enough international to not keep it out of that contention? Either way, it's impressive numbers for Top Gun. It's impressive numbers for Doctor Strange. Again, this film's already making hundreds of millions in net gain profits, as is Top Gun Maverick, or it's very soon to be. And we're going to see Jurassic World Dominion be in a very similar category, especially when it's getting close to a $400 million opening weekend. But those are the numbers as they stand. What are y'all's thoughts? Where do you think this movie is going to end up falling by the end of the weekend? Do you think it's going to be closer to $400 million or closer to $350 million? Again, it looks like it's trending towards $400 million. Again, if you want to see my own thoughts about the film, go ahead and check out my review that I posted on Thursday evening. You'll find that linked on the channel. Let me know your thoughts about this or anything else I mentioned, maybe including the Spider-Man No Way Home, the new, more fun stuff version. Again, I like the movie and I own it, but that's a silly name. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button on Odyssey. Y'all are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to my June Keeper of the Bifrost and Chosen of Valhalla level members: Brandon, let's go Brandon, Christopher Bowman, Garrett Searles, Hymir Irie Hymason, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Father Luca, Mike Jackson, for the win, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Orange Chat Reviews. Make sure to check out his YouTube channel. He just hit 1,000 subscribers. Rosetta Allen, check out her YouTube channel as well. Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, check out her YouTube channel. And also, of course, the amazing Tina B, Empress of the Universe. Check out her YouTube channel, especially her show, Soup to Nuts, that she does with the amazing Stephanie B. Thank y'all very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And a huge shout out to all of my subscribers as well over on Subscribestar at these levels: Matt 317, Storm Tracker, the R, Fast Reaction, Mr. Roy, and also, of course, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. You guys are amazing. And a last shout out to my locals members. We have Miss Minnesota Hockey Fan. How about a hockey player? We have Mike Jackson for the win once again, Robert Barnes, and Brett D90. So I want to say thank you again for being my members at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and the Chosen of Valhalla levels. If you want your name specially shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream, please check out my links at the Patreon and Subscribestar. You can find those in the top link in the video description, the Willow link, as I like to call it, where you can also get access to things like giveaways, things like the podcast I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, and other cool stuff like that. Anyway, thank you all very much for supporting me for the month of June. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.